got another match coming up. Ken Yukuhiro against Lewk.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to get a chance in just a second here to see our backup matches. They work their way in. Thank you so much again for watching the Mythic Invitational, powered by Owen by HP. We really do appreciate you taking the time on your, well, in this case, weekday, though we will be here all day tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday as well. So, you know, ease your way in. We're going to be here for a while. Let's take a look at our game here, David, as we work our way down to the feature match area once again. You can see that we've got Lewk on the top part of your screen, and on the bottom, Death Snow. That's Ken Yukuhiro down on the bottom.
Yeah, this is a matchup we actually just saw. The Team of Reclamation against the Mono Red Aggro.
So what do you make of the board state here? It looks like Ken is still building things out. Has Search for Escanta and Wilderness Reclamation, a potent 2-card combo, but he's facing a bit of an army on the other side of the battlefield. His life total is going to start dumping off pretty quickly here.
Yeah, Ken really needs to find an expansion explosion to kind of fuel his hand up with some more cards. Hopefully Chemistry's Insight here can give him some of that. He's facing down a lot of burn. He's only at 12.
Boy, taking a look at Lewk's hand as well. My goodness sakes, he is not short on action. Look at that. Skewer the Critic's Risk Factor and a pair of Chain Whirlers, as well as his third land, and he's already way ahead on board and life total as well. And he has Runaway Steamkin ready to fuel the fire here.
Yeah, Runaway Steamkin's going to allow this hand to really go off. He's going to attack here, and then post-combat can cast a Skewer the Critics for the 1 red mana, which is going to put a third counter on the Steamkin, which will then allow him to have 3 mana to cast either Risk Factor or a Chain Whirler.
And this is very bad news for Ken Yukuhiro. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. It looks like Ken is actually up a game here. We had it as Lewk, but it's Ken. So he actually has a little bit of wiggle room here, David, but still, tough spot.
Yeah, I'm surprised Lewk, I guess Risk Factor is an instant he can cast it, and there's no reason to play a Goblin Chain Whirler here to put your opponent at 2 when you already have lethal on a board, so. I imagine we're going to see an end-of-turn Risk Factor.
Yeah, but guess what? Ken can't even beat the board at this point, let alone the Risk Factor or the Chain Whirlers or anything else, and he's going to scoop him up.
Yeah, I don't think there was any sweepers in his deck that could get him out of that right there, so no matter what he drew, because he could have cast the Chemistry's Insight, floated some mana, drawn some cards, but there's nothing that can get rid of 4 lethal threats.
Yeah, and it looks like that was actually the match going to Lewk in this case. Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think they're getting ready for the third match. They're going to have to pick their decks, yeah. Now they're looking at the deck list, deciding which decks they want to go with.
Right, so this is the interesting part here as well, David. Explain to us how this works, since this is our first game through that we're seeing on camera.
So because it's game 3, they both played both their decks once, which is the requirement. They now get a choice of which deck they want. So they're both making a choice based on the other 2 decks they know their opponent have. They're going to pick their deck, and then after the decks are decided, one player will randomly be giving the option, or not the option, one person will be decided to play first, and we'll have our matchup.
So here's the decks that Ken has to choose from, although we'll get a chance to see already what he's picked.
Yeah, so Ken has decided to go with Esper Acuity, no more Team of Reclamation. I think he doesn't want to end up against one of these 2 aggro decks, because we've got mono red aggro and white red reinforcements.
Well, almost mono red. Take a look at that card in the right upper hand corner there. Reinforcements, baby, getting in there.
Yeah, it's fallen out of favor. You don't see it as much. I mean, you saw Andrew Ellenbogen win the Mythic Championship Pro Tour with heroic reinforcements.
Oh, I like that. Sending a message, chipping in there with the Snubhorn Sentry for 0.
Yeah, sometimes it's
Luke's
easier.
just setting the tone early here.
I think it's sometimes easier just to keep clicking in the past the turn spot where attack
just let me have my thing. Just let me have it.
Tithe Taker's a very powerful turn 2.
Yeah, and you can see why. Even though it got killed, it still leaves Lewk with a threat.
And it forces your opponent to play, either have an extra mana or play things in the main phase, such as we just saw.
And this is a key play here now for Lewk as well. He lands Legion's Landing, putting him at 3 creatures. If he can turn those 3 creatures sideways and attack with them next turn, he will be able to transform that thing. And that could be a major problem here for Ken.
It's going to force Ken to make a choice here. I mean, he can no longer really Acuity and allow him to transform the Legion's Landing. He's going to have to mortify either a creature or the Legion's Landing itself. It's an interesting spot. I mean, obviously, I think you would go for the creature, but the problem is Luke's going to have 3 more, more creatures and have 3 creatures again at some point, and you're still going to be facing the same dilemma.
Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game for this deck for sure. Yeah, a little bit of spice here from Ken. He's got that Mastermind's Acquisition in his hand. and a Nightmare's Thirst as well.
Yeah, he's got 2 3-mana plays, so he can cast a Mortify here and cast another next turn if he has to play Watery Grave tapped and preserve his life total. He has to cast this before combat if he's going to choose a creature, before the Legion's Landing flips, because once you declare 3 attackers, whether you kill one or not, it would flip.
So he's going to go for the flyer. And take 1 point of damage here from Lewk. Luke's going to follow up with Hunted Witness, but key here, he did not hit his land drop here, David.
Yeah, and with
History of Benalia this turn would have been nice.
With Ken being at 20, he can go ahead and play the Dovin's Acuity. He has enough mana to also then follow it up with Nightmare's Thirst, which is an instant, which will return the Dovin's Acuity. So this is a really good turn for Ken.
Boom, boom. Back down to 21.
Yeah, unfortunately for Lewk, when your opponent is above 20 after your attack, they have plenty of land and cards in hand. Doesn't bode well for the long term.
No, but key here, he did find his land, right? Land number 3 hits the battlefield, and that's going to set a procession of History of Benalia to come out this turn, and then another one potentially next turn. And here it is, Mastermind's Acquisition is going to let Ken search up any card in his deck or his sideboard. And yes, he does have a sideboard here, even though he isn't allowed to actually use it as a normal sideboard. He can use it as a treasure trove here for his Mastermind's Acquisition, and he grabs Cry of the Carnarium, David.
Cry of the Carnarium is one of the best spells you could have against this white aggro deck. It's basically a 3-mana sweeper.
I mean, do you really think it's that good? Look at the board.
And the beauty of it is it also exiles the creatures. So things like Hunted Witness, Tide Taker, they won't make little tokens.
And look at this here from Lewk. He decides to just do nothing.
Well, he did flip Legion's Landing into Adanto, so he can make a token every turn.
Yeah, but he could have cast any number of the spells in his hand there. He could have Loxodon, he could have cast
Well, I think
Heroic
after
Reinforcement.
your opponent casts Mastermind's Acquisition.
Oh, I know. I need you to explain it, buddy.
You know what's coming after Mastermind's Acquisition.
Yeah. So instead, he's going to settle for a much longer game plan where he just makes a 1/1 Vampire off of his Adanto, the first fort, and then follows up with another History of Benalia. So, boom, right back at it here for Lewk.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a flipped Legion's Landing, Adanto, the first fort, so that does give him a continual source of creatures, which is going to be a problem for Ken. It does force Ken to win the game, because if not, those creatures will just build up and you'll have to keep answering them. Kaya's Wrath.
Yeah, and there's another one in hand as well.
Yeah, I mean, it gives Lewk the benefit of not having to play anything. He can just sit back and keep generating 1/1 tokens if he wants.
But instead, he's going to get in there and get aggressive. He's going to cast the first of the Heroic Reinforcements he has in his hand, which is going to result in a 7 damage turn.
And
Search for his Cantus going to get Thought Erasure? What's going on?
I think Thought Erasure, he's
Doesn't
going to
want
keep it.
Oh, he does keep it.
He does have 6 mana, so it does allow him to cast Thought Erasure and then follow it up with Kaya's Wrath, clear the board, get rid of a threat in hand, which Heroic Reinforcements is a huge threat, because it does allow damage to come in big chunks.
And let's not forget that Surveil value as well. He's going to put a land from the top of his library into his graveyard as a result, and then sweep the board again, doing his best. And it's Ken Yukuhiro.
It's especially good because the History of Benalia is about to trigger to give the Knights the bonus, and there was the Knight on the board, so you want to go ahead and do that now, so that that effect does nothing.
And that's exactly what happens. The History of Benalia just goes straight to the bin, no effect whatsoever, and Lewk is in the position you really don't want to be in. He's going to cast a Venerated Loxodon just for full price with no counters on anything. Not where you want to be. Things are starting to look very good here for Ken.
Yeah, and as Kanta flipped for him, and his mana was perfect to where he could cast Mortify and still leave mana up to search for a non-creature spell. So this is, again, we do have Adanto, the first fort, that kind of keep generating threats every turn, but doesn't match up too well against Search for Kanta, because Ken's going to eventually pull ahead and find a way to win this game.
So how far ahead is Ken right now? Is he killing this? Is it locked up? Should we just move on?
I wouldn't say it's locked up.
But he's ahead.
He's ahead.
Okay. It's getting there.
He's going to have to find a Mastermind's Acquisition and get a threat out of his sideboard to lock this game up.
Lyra or something like that.
Yeah, Lyra does a pretty good job.
Not bad. We're going to see a lot of activations here, though, for Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, which will help him find the tools that he needs to find the tools that he needs to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, when you're drawing a card and looking at 4 cards a turn, If you're looking at 5, and then you have a Dovin's Acuity going, it's not too hard to find a card you're playing 4 of.
Dauntless Bodyguard's going to hit the battlefield now for Lewk. Players are tied at 1 game apiece. And there's a Conclave Tribunal. Take a look at that Dovin's Acuity and send it packing.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mortify can get it right back if Ken wants it.
And it's kind of brutal, right, when you get a Dovin's Acuity back.
2 life and a card
Right,
again.
you just get it back again. It's like
It's like casting it.
it's almost like, thanks, I'll take it.
Mission Briefing is an interesting card. He can use that to recast the Mastermind's acquisition he's already cast. He's going to go with Nightmare's Thirst.
That'll allow him to kill the Dauntless Bodyguard cleanly. After he gets back his Dovin's Acuity.
Which will return the Dovin's Acuity and allow him to do it all again, but it looks like Ken's in no hurry.
Ken's in a pretty safe 12 life. He does have to be a little bit fearful because of heroic reinforcements just existing. But really, he's fine. He's in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
so
6
many
cards
hands.
in hand, 7 virtually with the Chemistry's Insight, Search for Escanta. You've got instants to deal with any creatures, such as Banalish Marshal here. Ken's in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that is certainly a card that he's going to want to take care of here, as it represents 5 power on this battlefield. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see a removal spell used. Of course, you do want to manage them specifically when you have Dovin's Acuity and the ones that are instant speed, but here it's worth it to take 2 less damage. Kill a creature you're going to kill anyway.
You saw a pause from Ken. I think he debated whether he might just go ahead and take the 5 damage here and cast Kaya's Wrath. But I think he realized with the Adonto generating a creature every turn, it's good to just keep your life total high so that you have time for that threat where you can find an answer to it.
You can also see the power of Nightmare's Thirst against these small creature aggressive decks. Ken, just in his hand right now, has Revitalize and Dovin's Acuity, plus that Mortify actually gains him life as well. So he can gain life multiple different ways. Speaking of Revitalize.
You know, to quote my friend and teammate Matt Sperling, there's no wrong way to eat this Reese's here if you can. You can Revitalize here, you can cast Nightmare's Thirst.
It was kind of, did he actually go into his beginning of combat stuff
I think
there?
he accidentally cast it in combat, which is why the Dovin's Acuity didn't return.
Yeah, so maybe a misclick from him, or maybe he has a reason for it. Though generally speaking, you just want to trigger that Acuity whenever you can. And there it is, Cry of the Carnarium. So wipe away the board once again. Ken's now at 16 life, his life total ever moving upwards. And Lewk basically just has to go through the motions at this point, but he just doesn't have the tools to win this game, and Ken does. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to generate a creature here, and with him doing this main phase, Ken knows that that means the Venerity Loxodon is coming, so he responds with the Nightmare's Thirst so the Loxodon can't come down. Huge tempo swing.
Yeah, another big win there, and a bunch of big wins here for Ken Yukuhiro. And he is looking very good.
Main phase Insight, getting rid of the extra Search for Escanta, returning the Dovin's Acuity. More cards, more life for Ken.
Thought erasure to take away the Venerated Loxodon that he probably predicted was there anyway. And he's going to take another Dovin's Acuity because you can never have enough of those.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Lewk on the white-red aggro and your opponent was pretty low, but now they've got 2 Acuities going and they're at 17 already, you've got to feel pretty bad about it.
Land off the top here for Lewk is not going to help him get the job done, and this one has well and truly slipped away from our qualifier.
Search for a Mastermind's acquisition. I think he wants to get this game over with.
Do you think it's Death's Snow or Death's Now?
I like Death's Now.
I think that's what's going to happen to Lewk pretty shortly, so it is a little more accurate.
He's got the Absorb backup so that once he does search for a source of damage to win the game, which I predict would be Lyra, he will have an Absorb to protect it from any Conclave Tribunal.
Also want to mention, if you want to take a look at the lists and a little bit more information about the players, you can check out Cardboard 5. That is, you should be able to click on that on your screen and bring up some of that information pretty pretty neat little setups that we've got for that this time around. So make sure you do
Ken's
that.
so far ahead, he's just firing off instants into turn, not even worried about returning Acuity. Now Ken's going to get the Mirari Conjecture instead of a Lyra to bring back the Mastermind's Acquisition if he wants. Looks like he's showboating a little bit here.
Boy, Ken's on that value train now. I mean, this thing's not stopping for anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
how much more do you think Lewk can take? Like, that's honestly, like, this is just torture, right? Like, you're sitting in Lewk's seat. Your opponent has 5 cards in their hand. They're all spells. They can draw 2 to 3 cards extra per turn.
And also, Ken can do something interesting. Death Snow, he can return his sorcery of choice, can be Mastermind's Acquisition, and then the following turn, when he's in Double Spell World, the 3rd chapter of Mirari Conjecture, he can cast Mastermind's Acquisition to get 2 cards. Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, Ken. All right.
He's just playing with him now.
He really is. Now he's up to 25 life.
Nightmare's Thirst, very potent with Revitalize.
Ken is loving this.
Oh yeah, he's going for it.
He's doing it. There it is. Mastermind's Acquisition.
Oh, he's not even going to wait.
Double trouble.
No, it's not in Double Spell World. He just returned it.
Oh.
He could have waited a turn. Oh, he's taking another
wait for it, David. Wait for it. He's just going to play another copy of Mirari Conjecture. Get back a Mortify. And look at the look on Luke's face. He's like, dude, come on. Wow. And Yukuhiro putting on a show here down the stretch with this Esper deck.
With enjoying your time in the spotlight.
Indeed.
I like it.
Get your 15 minutes. All right, back down to 20 life now for Ken Yukuhiro. Yeah, this is a tough spot here.
Look at Luke's face.
For Lewk, because he's like, well, I'm just going to keep playing. Maybe you'll deck yourself or something, but...
Mastermind's Acquisition.
So now we're in double trouble mode,
Now
right?
we're in Double Spell World. Here we go. First one he chooses to get a card out of his sideboard. Let's see what he grabs.
Maybe it's time for Lyra to come
There
down and
she
clean
is.
up the
There's
mess.
a Lyra.
And a blink of an eye. All
A
right.
little protection from Conclave Tribunal in addition to the Absorb. You can always blink the Conclave Tribunal or blink your Lyra. Although he's got 2 Mortifies, so he's not really too worried about Conclave Tribunal.
It's true. I think he's playing around any possible... I mean, he's now got, what, 4 layers of insurance?
What he's going to do is probably blink his Mirari Conjecture.
Oh, God. Ken...
and do it all over again.
With it on the stack?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he just put a stop on his next turn.
Oh, yeah.
He's totally doing it.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, seriously, right? He's down in the arena saying...
Here we go. Let's do it again, baby.
Oh, no. Ken.
And he saved the mana. No need to kick it. You don't need any cards in your hand.
Ken, we want Lewk to still like playing Magic after this, Ken. All right, so Mirari Conjecture back in hand, thanks to Blink of an Eye.
I mean, he's going to get all 15 of those cards
Seriously,
out of his
is he
sideboard.
going to play
get them all.
literally every one? This is ridiculous.
Because he's got an infinite loop here. Now the Conjecture can return the Blink, second go round, return the Mastermind's Acquisition, rinse, repeat, keep going.
He's going to get Nezahal Primal Tide, card that most of these decks have in the board for the mirror, but oh, and good, and a Clear the Mind. Actually, this might prompt a concession here from Lewk. If his plan was like, well, maybe he'll just fly too close to the sun and deck himself.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about Nezahal is the draw ability is a must. So, I mean, if Lewk could muster a lot of non-creature spells, which I don't know if he has enough in his deck, he theoretically could block it with tokens and maybe cast spells and make him draw the last card. But with Clear the Mind here, and Ken just having it all, I don't think that's really an out.
This is just completely absurd, because he's double troubling all of these. Like, look at his hand right now. The little reminder on Arena that tells you need to go back down to 7 cards.
I like that.
Yeah, it's
I like that. And
you
I like
have to discard 4 cards, Ken. Like, what are you doing?
And it has an exclamation point. Like, Dude, what are you doing? Stop drawing cards.
I feel like there should be like a red alert at some point. I don't know. Now he's just firing off individual removal spells because they're all getting doubled up to just pick off tokens. Again, Lewk really, he's just smiling, right? He's just over there like, sure.
Well, now Ken has tied the life total. He's going to pass it. So if we did go to time and turns, he also doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Because we did have a match last round have that happen, so.
All right, and that's the good game there from Lewk, and he is going to scoop him up. That is game number 3 going to Ken Yukuhiro, who picks up the match win.
The crowd goes
wild. In true
wild.
Ken Yukuhiro fashion, and we've got a big round of applause from everybody here at PAX East on the floor, and why not? If you're a fan of value, you just saw the best possible display of value. Welcome back to the booth here at the Mythic Invitational. I'm Marshall Cycliffe. That's David Williams. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage here on day number 1. We're here for 4 full days. We've got a lot of action lined up for you. Whole bunch of fun surprises and stuff throughout the course of the 4-day event here in Boston, Massachusetts. But right now, we're working our way through our first pod. And I'll tell you what, these players, 2 wins, they're almost through. 1 more win, and you're in. That's it.
1 more win, and you are into the top 16.
You will be one of those 16 players to advance. And that's how this goes, is we're taking 64, and over the course of the next 2 days, we're going to condense them down. We're going to weed out until we get down to just 16.
4 brackets of 16 become 1 bracket of 16. Becomes 1 bracket of 4, and then we have a champion.
That's right. And that's one of the cool things about the Mythic Invitational here at PAX is that we get to do double elimination rather than our normal Swiss play. And that creates a much different dynamic for the players and for us in the booth here as well. The drama's ratcheted up. It's that simple.
Yeah, every match is, I wouldn't say every match matters, but they all matter in Swiss pairings too. But every match is of key importance here. I mean, you don't really have any matches to give. I mean, you can lose 1, but you better win the rest.
That's right. And also from the viewing perspective, we get a cool thing where sometimes when it's Swiss play, you don't know exactly if you lose and you're out or if you win and you're in, right?
Stakes aren't always known.
Yeah, they're not quite as known. Here, you know.
Every match is high stakes.
If I have a loss and I'm going into my next match, I have nothing to give. If I lose a match, I'm out of the tournament and I get to go enjoy PAX with everybody else.
And the beauty of it too is when 2 people are 2-0, there's like a lot of times you're like, oh, one of these guys could lose, but next round, the 2-0 players, this is a win and in.
Right.
You get win and ins early, not
That's
just
right.
at the end of the tournament.
All right, well, it sounds like Becca is ready with an interview. Let's send it to her right now.